Hello, and welcome to The Whole Equation. Today, we're going to talk about where filmmakers get their ideas. Filmmakers have long sought inspiration from the past. One of the most influential film movements was the French New Wave. It's likely, if you know anything about the French New Wave, you've heard this before.
You're laughing at that? That's very good. Do me a favor.
So today, I'm going to concentrate on the specifics of how they changed modern filmmaking by tracing their influence on one director.
You're the director. Can you help me? Yeah, take the tissues out of your collar and let's go.
Martin Scorsese. The French New Wave was a movement of critics turned directors who started making films in the late 50s and 60s. Like Scorsese, these French directors loved classic Hollywood cinema, but weren't simply content to emulate it. Instead, they were keen to open up film form to new ideas. As a young film student, Scorsese watched many of these exciting new French films.
In late 50s, 58, 59, when people, the original critics from the Cahiers du Cinema, that's Godard and Truffaut and Chabrol and all those people, all these people got started, but the destruction of old cinematic techniques, the conscious destruction, and yet a reverence for it and a respect for it, you see. That's the beauty of it.
So what cinematic techniques did the French New Wave destroy? And how did they influence a director like Scorsese? Well, let's first look at editing. Classical movie editing had emphasized continuity, that is, the cuts between footage should not be noticed. Watch this scene from Frank Capra's It Happened One Night. The cuts are used to tell a clear, unbroken story. In his debut Breathless, Jean-Luc Godard did away with this idea and instead cut like this, leaving out parts of the scene entirely. This became known as the jump cut. Early in his career, Scorsese was happy to imitate some of these ideas. Here's a scene from his early film, Who's That Knocking at My Door? The fast, stylish cutting is clearly reminiscent of Breathless. While this scene shows quite a direct influence, Scorsese is a great director because he takes what he needs and adapts it. Look at this scene from Scorsese's later film Taxi Driver.
Here is a man who would not take it anymore, who would not let... Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would
Here,
not
the
take
jump
it
cut is used in a
anymore.
way that's
He
far more
stood up
unnerving.
against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here is someone who stood up.
Even when he borrows something directly, Scorsese finds a way to put his own spin on it. Take the other major director of the French New Wave, François Truffaut, who also employed the jump cut. In Shoot the Piano Player, a piano teacher heads towards an audition with a new agent. As he goes to ring the doorbell, a double jump cut extends the action and adds tension, emphasizing the self-doubt of the character. Scorsese has cited Truffaut as a direct source for this idea, which appears in the opening of Mean Streets. By timing the jump cuts to music, he adds a lot of energy and vitality to the scene. Scorsese really loves this cut and uses it repeatedly. Here it is again in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
This is his wife.
In this case, the jump cut adds emotional weight, as Ellen Burstyn's character is told her husband has been killed. When Godard used the jump cut, he wanted to call attention to the cut, breaking the viewer's immersion in the reality of the film. In his view, film is not simply a storytelling medium, but cuts could be stylish and beautiful in their own right. Scorsese, however, is not interested in breaking the immersion in a story. In fact, his goal is the opposite. His goal is to help us feel with the character, whether that's physical pain, trauma, or psychosis. The jump cut is repurposed, depending on the feelings in the scene. However, it's not simply new ideas around editing which make the French New Wave so influential. More generally, New Wave directors, especially Godard, wanted a cinema where directors were free to do as they pleased.
Avant, il y avait une seule règle. Il y avait qu'une seule manière, il fallait faire comme ça, et si on faisait pas comme ça, enfin, il y avait des gens qui protégeaient ça comme des brevets. Il y avait une franc-maçonnerie dans laquelle il fallait...
The immense influence of the French New Wave is largely due to their willingness to make artistic decisions which liberated the choices of later directors. For example, take this shot in Godard's 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her. In a conventional shot, we would expect that the characters remain in the frame as the camera pans across. Godard purposely defies this convention, instead deciding to have the characters walk through a back room, out of the shot. The bravery of Godard emboldened directors like Scorsese who followed him. Here's a similar idea from a shot in Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver, in fact, borrows this idea twice, and it reappears later in the film. Here, the camera tracks away during a difficult phone call. Again, this shot is used to express some of the emptiness and loneliness of the character. So while Godard will throw away a filmmaking rule, Scorsese finds a way to make it a part of the storytelling process. If you look at the Scorsese filmography, you'll find these ideas from the French New Wave everywhere, whether it be a borrowed shot, a fluid camera movement, or the use of freeze frame. Scorsese will take it and find a way to use it. However, in the end, I don't think any individual shot or cut is the main lesson of the French New Wave. In Truffaut's debut, The 400 Blows, the story is about a troubled boy growing up in Paris. Truffaut drew directly on aspects of his own upbringing, including the sensitive issue of his own paternity. Likewise, Scorsese made Mean Streets to reflect his own early life.
More than, it's not really, in my mind, it wasn't really a film. It was some sort of a statement or a representation of who I was and my friends and myself and the world I came from.
It's difficult to appreciate now, but the idea that a director might use film to reflect their own experiences is quite radical. In the dominant Hollywood system before the 1970s, it was exceedingly rare. But the key idea of the French New Wave is even broader than this. For the French New Wave, a film represents the vision of a director who is the author of a film, or the auteur. This shifted some of the power away from the actors, producers and studio heads, who had traditionally held most of the sway in Hollywood. In this new view, the director is the artist, in charge of putting their vision on screen. That means, if you want to cut out the middle of a scene, you should. If you want to watch a cup of coffee for 3 minutes, while you whisper a meditation on alienation in capitalist society, then go right ahead. For Martin Scorsese, it means that filmmaking can be a tool which helps us empathise. For Scorsese and the French New Wave, film is a means of self-expression. The seventh art.